Wednesday's Express now. More school shenanigans. Over to Ireland for the latest outrage in compelled speech.
OK, well, it's a complicated story, this, in the sense that this is about this Irish teacher. He's called Enoch Burke, I think. He has been jailed for contempt of court. So just quickly what the story is this. Enoch Burke comes from a family of Burkes. They are Martina and Sean Burke, and there are 10 children, of which Enoch is one of them. They are Christian evangelists, OK? And they have a history of protesting in all sorts of different ways, particularly about homosexuality, but in this case it's obviously about transgenderism. And they do it in a very noisy and loud way. In this school, there was a child, and the parents and the teachers and the child wanted to be called they or her or him or whatever it was, but they wanted their pronouns changed. This guy refused to do it. And he did it in a very, very noisy way, in the sense that in a public big dinner at the school, he berated the head teacher. He made a big thing of it. OK, that's one aspect of the story. Should he or should he not have actually towed the line, and is it compelled speech? What then happened was that actually they suspended him pending an inquiry. He was then told, as part of the inquiry, that he was not allowed to come on the school, and the court ruled that he shouldn't because he was being disruptive.
Right.
He broke that order. That's why he's been jailed.
OK.
So it's just really important.
So he's in contempt of court?
He's in contempt of court because he went back into the school.
Yep.
So there are two stories here. One is the question about, you know, speech and compelled speech. Do we go along with, you know, changing pronouns? And I couldn't find out how old this child is, because for me, I think that's quite an issue about whether the child has got some sort of degree of agency.
Well, he says here, transgenderism is against my Christian belief, but, which is interesting because from what I understand of what's going on in America is there's a lot of evangelical people who are actually, because they're so homophobic, they're actually pushing their children into being
Well, that's exactly what I was just saying about Iran.
Yeah, but that's exactly like that. And sort of saying, oh, I don't have a gay son, I've actually got a daughter. And that makes it OK for them. Yeah. So it's quite interesting.
It's a tricky one, and I totally take your point. And if a school has decided to go down a certain route and feels this man shouldn't be on site, and then he starts barging in, then, you know, it's hard to avoid the next stage being policed. But it's an extraordinary idea, isn't it? I mean, I was just thinking, you know, 5 years ago, if he was to say that a teacher was now being led away, you know, from his school for refusing to call a girl a boy or whatever.
Well, set aside
and in Ireland, it's a place which has, I don't think his Christianity should be treated that lightly. I mean, it's clearly something that they feel he feels quite strongly about, and it's been quite well established in Ireland.
It's one of these really problematic things, because there's another thing. There's the thing about whether you object to it, whether you feel it's acceptable to go along with changing in other words, what's called social transitioning children at a young age, whether that is actually a positive and useful thing to do, or actually it's a very negative and damaging thing to do. That's one argument. The second is the style with which he did it. I mean, they are endemic protesters, and my favourite one was that they protested outside a mural in the centre of Dublin of two men kissing, but the reason they protested was they said it didn't have planning permission. So I'm going to apply for planning permission to my local council now to get my goodnight kiss from my husband.
And before you enter the VIP area.
Yes, and absolutely, and nothing. No comment on erections.
with your plough.
With my plough.
Filth, just top to bottom.